I thought I was just treating myself until I woke up with over 10 grand's worth of credit card debt. And if you've ever looked at your bank statement and felt that sinking feeling, you're not alone. I'm Heather, an accountant and finance director, helping women take control of their money and build real wealth. In this video, I'm breaking down exactly how I got into over 10 grand's worth of credit card debt and, more importantly, how I'm going to get out of it. By the end of this video, you're going to have a clear step-by-step plan to tackle your own debt, avoid common mistakes, and stay motivated, even when it feels overwhelming. Let's get into it. So, how did I end up in all of this debt? Honestly, it wasn't just one big reckless splurge. It wasn't a luxury holiday or a designer shopping spree. It was a slow build. Little things that felt harmless in the moment. A treat here, an upgrade there, saying yes to plans because I didn't want to miss out, and just convincing myself that I'll sort it out later. I told myself I deserved it. And you know what? I did. But what I didn't deserve was the stress of waking up one day and realizing I'd dug myself into a 10 grand hole. I felt sick, like properly panicked. Not just at the number, but the fact that I'd let it get this far. I thought I was pretty good with money, but clearly I'd been lying to myself and burying my head in the sand. And the worst part was that I had no more savings left to clear it. The money I once had is now gone. And now I'm paying interest on things that I barely even remember buying. Now, technically, I could just clear this debt tomorrow. I've got over 130 grand investment pot, but I'm not going to derail my future just to pay off a reckless credit card bill. That money is there to build wealth, to give me financial freedom, not to clean up a mess that I've made because I wasn't paying attention. And I know there's a lot of people who feel stuck in this same position, wondering if they should pull from savings and investments to clear their debt. But getting out of debt isn't just about making it disappear. It's about changing your habits so you don't end up there again. So instead of cashing out, I've come up with a plan. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I'm getting out of this debt without wrecking my future in the process. Now, let's talk about the mistakes that got me here. Because trust me, this debt did not just appear overnight. It was a slow build. And looking back, there were some massive red flags that I ignored. I thought I was good with money because I wasn't blowing it on ridiculous things. But I wasn't paying attention to it either. I wasn't tracking where my money was actually going. So I had no idea how much I was spending until it was too late. My first mistake was not tracking my spending. If you're not tracking it, you're guessing. And when it comes to money, guessing is expensive. I now track my spending every week and log it in my planner because knowing your numbers is the first step to fixing them. I'd be lying if I said I was completely ignoring my debt. I was paying attention to the minimums, but that's like trying to empty a bath with a teaspoon whilst the tap's still running. Credit card interest is brutal. And by only paying the minimum, I was basically setting myself up to be in debt forever. So mistake number 2 was just paying the minimums. Minimum payments keep you in debt. The only way out is to pay more than what you're told to. I'm now focusing on aggressive repayments, putting as much extra as I can towards my debt. Now, this mistake hurts to admit, but I justified so much of my spending telling myself that I deserved it. Rough day? Takeaway. Feeling stressed? A little shopping cart hurt. If I wanted to feel better about myself, I'd book a trip. At the time, this feels like self-care. In reality, I was spending money to escape my uncomfortable emotions. And those emotions didn't magically disappear when the bill arrived. Mistake number 3 was justifying my emotional spending. Real self-care is building financial security, not buying things to feel better in the moment. Now I pause and ask myself, am I buying this to fill an emotion? Am I bored, stressed, or just down right now? If I think that the reason I'm online shopping is for the dopamine hit, then I just X off all my browsers and step away. One of my biggest mistakes was that I kept telling myself I'll sort it out later. Like some future version of me will magically just have a life together and pay it off. Well, she didn't, because if you don't change your habits, your future self is just you with the same problem, plus interest. Waiting does not make the debt go away. Action does. So that's why I'm making a plan now, not later, and sticking to it. These were the main mistakes that landed me in over 10 grand's worth of credit card debt. If any of these sound familiar, don't beat yourself up. Just know that the sooner you change your approach, the easier it is to turn things around. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Okay, so once I had my wake-up call and accepted that my debt wasn't just going to disappear, I had to make some serious changes. My first goal was to stop the bleeding, because there's no point in making a plan to pay off debt if you're still adding to it. So step one is to stop using credit cards completely. This was non-negotiable. I knew that if I kept using my credit card, I'd just undo any progress that I'd made. So I took my credit cards out of my wallet, removed them from the online stores, and made spending on them as inconvenient as possible. If you're still using your credit card whilst trying to pay it off, remove it from your phone, Apple Pay, or PayPal right now. The harder it is to use, the less likely you are to swipe mindlessly. My next step was to create a bare bones budget. I needed to know exactly what I had coming in and going out. So I sat down and stripped my budget back to its A's, absolute essentials. Mortgage, bills, food. Everything else had to be questioned. I'm not going full rice and beans mode, but I needed to get real about what was necessary and what was luxury. A quick win is to track your last 30 days of spending and highlight anything that wasn't essential. That's your starting point for cutting back. So step number 3 is to cut out the mindless spending leaks. Once I saw where my money was actually going, I realized I had so many little spending leaks, subscriptions I forgot about, takeaways that added up, random Amazon orders that I didn't need. So I made these 3 quick changes. I cancelled subscriptions that I wasn't using. I set myself a weekly spending limit for non-essential things. And I started using dedicated money pots for things like food and fun money. Next, I stopped telling myself that I deserved it. One of the hardest shifts is changing your mindset around money. I had to stop telling myself that I deserved it when it came to impulse spending. Because you know what I really deserve? Financial freedom, security, and a life where debt isn't hanging over me. Next time you're about to buy something that you don't really need, ask yourself, do I actually want this? Or am I just trying to feel better in the moment? If it's the latter, walk away. So these are the first steps that I made to becoming debt-free. It's not complicated, but they make an instant difference. And once I had these in place, I could actually focus on getting rid of that debt for good. So getting serious about paying off my debt, I knew I needed to get a proper plan and not just throw money at it whenever I had it, but an actual strategy that would get me debt-free as soon as possible. So here's exactly how I am tackling my credit card debt step by step. Step 1 is choosing a debt payoff strategy. When it comes to paying off debt, there are 2 main strategies that people swear by: the snowball method and the avalanche method. Both work, but they focus on different things. The snowball method is where you focus on paying off the smallest debt first, while making minimum payments on everything else. It's great if you need a quick win to keep motivated. With the avalanche method, you focus on the highest interest debt first, while still making the minimum payments on the rest. This saves you the most money in the long run. If you're someone who needs motivation, then the snowball method can help because you see debts disappear faster. But for me, I chose the avalanche method because I just want to stop wasting money on interest. If you want to know more about these 2 methods, I've done a dedicated video on it. So I just listed out my debts and put them in order of highest interest first. That's your starting point. Step number 2 is taking advantage of a 0% balance transfer if you qualify. Before I started aggressively paying down my debt, I looked at my options. And one of the best things that I did was move my credit card balance to a 0 interest balance transfer card. Instead of paying 20+% interest on my debt, I transferred the full amount over to a new credit card, offering 0% interest for a set period. This means that for the next 31 months, every single pound that I pay goes toward my actual debt, not interest. Now, this wasn't completely free. I had to pay a 3.2% transfer fee, which worked out to be about 350 quid. But when I ran the numbers, it was worth it. Without this move, I'd be losing hundreds every month to interest, which would make it so much harder to pay off my debt quickly. But this only works if you have good credit. and you won't rack up more debt. If you qualify and can get a long enough 0% period, this is a game changer at stopping interest and getting out of debt. Step 3 is setting a fixed monthly repayment plan. Now that my debt's on a 0% card, I need to be strategic. I don't want to pay off just some minimums every month because that will keep me in debt longer. I also don't want to pay it off too quick because I've got 31 months. So I divided my total debt by the months that I wanted to pay it off by. In my case, I used 26 months, which came out at £400 per month. This number wasn't random. I ran it through my wealth planner to figure out exactly how much I could afford each month without struggling to cover my essentials. It's manageable, which means I can also invest at the same time. And step number 4 was to automate these payments. To make sure I stick to my plan, I set up an automatic payment of £400 a month right after payday, before I have the chance to spend it on anything else. No excuses, no missed payments. Step number 5 was throwing extra money at my debt where possible. Even though my plan is based on £400 per month, anytime I get any extra money, like a tax refund, side hustle income, or even just cutting back on something in my budget, I'll throw some of it at my debt to clear it. So if I underspend on groceries by, say, 20 quid in a month, I'll throw that 20 quid into my debt, instead of letting it just sit in my bank account where I could just spend it on something else. By moving my debt to a 0% card, setting fixed monthly payments, and making extra payments whenever I can, I have a clear, realistic plan to be completely debt-free in 26 months. And if you're in the same boat, just know, getting out of debt isn't about being perfect. It's about having a plan and sticking to it. And let's be honest, getting out of debt isn't just about making the payments. It's also about making sacrifices. And to clear this debt while still investing, I've decided to completely rethink how I spend money. For all my A's, absolute essentials, and B's, bonus buys, I could put everything else towards paying off my debt and building my wealth. It's not about deprivation, it's about making my money work for me. My essentials are covered first: mortgage, bills, food, and transport. Then bonus buys are only allowed if I have room, and every penny beyond that goes towards my debt and investments. A lot of people say you should stop investing until you're debt free, but because I did a 0% balance transfer, I'm not paying any interest for 31 months, which means I'm in no rush to clear this debt. Instead, I can afford to balance debt repayment and investing so that my money keeps on growing. Long term, wealth building doesn't stop just because I'm in debt. I'm cutting back massively to afford this balance. Living on minimum wage isn't easy, but it's a choice that helps me stay on track. And I have a clear timeline. With no interest for 31 months, I know exactly when my debt will be gone. I was spending like a mad woman to get into this debt. So now I've stopped that. That's half the battle. I'm also cutting back in general. I used to justify takeaways as a convenience, but in reality, I was spending over £150 a month on food that lasted one meal. Now, I plan my meals, batch cook, and stick to a strict food budget. I went through my bank statements and cut out all subscriptions I wasn't actively using. I also look for better alternatives. Like now I use Spotify for my audiobooks instead of having Audible as well. I'm also cutting out spending on clothes altogether. I have far too many and it was my biggest expense. This isn't forever, but for now, I'm committed to living lean, paying off my debt and investing over time. And the best part is, because I have a clear plan, I know exactly when I'm going to be debt free and I won't have sacrificed my long-term wealth building in the process. I know paying off debt isn't really exciting. It's easy to start strong, but after a few months, when you've still got thousands of pounds left to pay off, it can feel like you're getting nowhere, and that's when people give up. So here's how I'm staying motivated, even when it feels like this debt will never go away. It can feel never ending when you can't see progress. So I have monthly money meetings with myself where I update all my debts and assets. This shows me clearly every month my debt going down and my net worth going up. This really helps keep me motivated. If I only focused on the full 10 grand, I'd feel like I was making no progress. So I've broken my debt down into smaller chunks. Every time I pay off £1,000, I celebrate, without spending money obviously. And these small wins add up. Whenever I feel frustrated, I have to remind myself that this is only temporary. The sacrifices I'm making now are to give me a future of more freedom, more options, and more financial security. When I'm tempted to spend, I ask myself, do I want this more than I want to be debt-free? If the answer is no, I walk away. But the biggest motivation that keeps me going is knowing how much less stress I'll have once this debt is gone. No monthly payments hanging over me, no credit card bills eating into my paycheck, just complete financial control. And that's what keeps me going. Right now, a chunk of my income is locked into repaying debt. But once it's gone, that money is mine again. Debt weighs you down, even if you don't realise it. And the thought of waking up one day with no credit card debt is what keeps me pushing on. And if you're paying off debt too, just know you've got this. Even if it feels slow, every single payment is a step closer to financial freedom. And trust me, it's gonna be worth it. This journey hasn't been easy, but it's been necessary. If you're on a debt-free journey too, let me know in the comments. How much are you working to pay off and what's your plan? Because at the end of the day, we're not just getting out of debt, we're building real financial freedom. At the end of the day, this debt is temporary, but the financial freedom that we're building will last forever.